An issue was brought to my attention today that I had not given much thought to. In passing, I've watched TED Talks and different speakers talk about how we have kind of a problem in this country with death. We don't really face it head on. We don't really understand it. We tend to cower from it. We tend to think it's disgusting. It's gross. I don't want to see that. I don't want to think about it. When someone's dead, it's like icky. It's, obviously we're grieving, but people just, they don't face it. They don't grapple with these things. And there's a lot of things that go into death that are kind of fucked up if you think about it. Funeral services, caskets, there's a lot of price gouging that goes on with these systems when much of it is totally needless. It's something that emerged over the past couple hundred years, maybe 150 years, something like that. And a lot of people get taken for a ride in this existing system, and there's a lot of things to consider with death that we could probably do a little bit more efficiently. And this thing kind of brought those ideas into my mind a little more crystal clear. And I just want to go over this story with you because, I don't know very much about this. I don't know the full details about this, whether or not there's, the scientific arguments are cogent. So I'm not signing off on this right away. I'm just saying this is something very interesting to consider, and it may be something to think about for the future. So Washington becomes the first state to legalize human composting. Honestly, I had no idea that this was illegal to begin with. I was under the impression that you could do whatever you want with your body when you're dead. Apparently not. Okay, I don't know why this is illegal in some places. I don't know to what degree it's illegal. Like, is it states that are making this illegal? Is this, I assume it's not a federal thing. That would blow my mind if this is a federal thing. But yeah, Washington becomes first U.S. state to fully legalize human composting. They don't really give a lot of info here, but I'm going to go ahead and read some segments here for you. Under the new law, people there can now choose to have their body turned into soil after their death. The process is seen as an alternative to cremations and burials, and as a practical option in cities where land for graveyards is scarce. At the end of the composting, loved ones are given the soil, which they can use to plant flowers, vegetables, or trees. The bill was signed into law by Governor Jay Inslee. Jay Inslee is running for president, by the way, and he has a pretty extensive plan to address climate change, and I've been reading through some of it. A lot of it is very ambiguous. I have my issues with it, but it's pretty robust. In fact, AOC was giving it quite a bit of credit. I think, honestly, she's giving it more credit than it's worth, personally, but we'll probably go over that story in a different segment. So questions are raised by this. How do you compost a human body? I've been seeing this thing, a mushroom suit, which is apparently a $1,500 suit that is compostable that you would put a person in, and it helps kind of break down the body in a way that it's evenly distributed, and it apparently there are some toxins that are released to the body that aren't necessarily, you don't always want to be planted where you're growing plant. I didn't know that, to be honest. I don't know the first thing about the science regarding this. And you may think, okay, well, a $1,500 mushroom suit, maybe that's a little expensive. But if you think about, okay, if there is some legitimacy to that scientifically, I don't know, but if there is, $1,500 in the scope of someone dying is a measly, paltry sum, okay? I don't know if you've ever had to, God forbid, pay for a funeral or have a loved one die, my condolences, but it gets expensive really fast, especially if you haven't prepared for this, if they haven't set aside some money for this. So $1,500, kind of a drop in the bucket compared to an entire, a funeral procession, the casket, even cremation itself, I think is kind of expensive. Recomposition offers an alternative to embalming and burial or cremation that is natural, safe, sustainable, and will result in significant savings in carbon emissions and land usage. That's an interesting thing. Obviously, burying people in a casket and everything, that does use land, and often keeping up these lands has a lot of things entailed into it. I would imagine cremation creates greenhouse gases through burning the bodies, and obviously the nutrition in those bodies that would return to the soil is, I'm imagining, mostly lost unless you spread the ashes. But even then, I think it's mostly lost. So I don't know. It does seem kind of wasteful, I suppose. But obviously, what you do with your body when you're dead, the most important takeaway here is that what you do with your body when you're dead, it should be totally your decision. And that's why I primarily support this. Whether or not it has any scientific basis or not, I just support you having the right to do with your body what you choose, even after you're dead. And it's kind of weird that states would not have this be legal. You know, if I want my body dropped off a cliff when I'm dead, I should be able to do it. Like, who cares, you know? Obviously, as long as it's not harming anybody, but, you know. How does it work? Miss Spade says that the process for her company, Recompose, which is apparently a company that supported this and has ways of doing this, you know, it's kind of, obviously there's some question as to, like, the, you know, I'm assuming this company was lobbying for this, so, you know, look at the scientific data, whether or not, look at their claims and whether or not this is a net benefit. I would imagine that it is, but don't just believe, if they stand to make money off of these procedures becoming legal, obviously question all of that up front. But Recompose places a body in a hexagonal steel container filled with alfalfa, wood chips, and straw. The container is then shut, and the body decomposes naturally within 30 days, creating 2 wheelbarrows worth of soil. Environmentally friendly burial alternatives are becoming increasingly popular. Earlier this month, it was revealed that late actor Luke Perry was laid to rest in a mushroom suit in California. The process of human composting is already legal in Sweden, while natural burials, where the body is buried without a casket or with a biodegradable coffin, are legal in the UK. Yeah, this is really fascinating. I mean, ultimately, like I said, from a legal standpoint, I think you should, as long as it's not harming anyone, you should be able to do whatever the fuck you want with your body. So that's kind of the main takeaway from this for me. But if we can get some environmental benefits out of this, if we can get some, you know, just general benefits in terms of soil nutrition, regrowing new life from a dead body, saving land, obviously, that's one of the reasons that before knowing about this, I wanted to be cremated, but now I'm kind of wondering if this is the better way to go. I mean, at the outset, it seems like the better way to go, right? But again, I haven't done a deep dive into the science behind this. It just seems to make sense, right? Like, when things die, I mean, this is one of the reasons that we do composting, is that you can take a lot of shit that would otherwise be thrown in a landfill, you can mix it all up and then make new life out of it, and re-add nutrients to the soil, because one of the drivers of climate change that isn't often talked about is the loss of topsoil and all of the nutrient-rich layer of the soil that lets us grow food will shrink over time. It is shrinking over time, and as a result, we're going to lose out on crops, obviously, and the ability to feed ourselves. You know, obviously, soil erosion and loss of lands that are able to be cultivated, that's one of the main drivers of future scarcity in terms of our food production. So, I mean, this is something to think about. It's really, really interesting. And I'm curious what you guys have to say about this. Please leave your comments. Please join us in our Discord server. I will be posting that link down below of every video from now on, just in the future. Also, think about leaving us a like, sharing this video, because we are fighting those algorithms hard, let me tell you. It is a lot harder today to be a YouTuber than it was 5 years ago or 10 years ago. It's really hard to break out these days. So please help us fight those algorithms. Fight those damn bastards. So thank you so much for watching.